So, going on our Ultraman news streak that we currently have going, here's some news that is pretty sad, and is probably to get into some interesting lawyer territory down the line. Okay, so Ultraman film opens in China without Japanese rights holders' approval. Now, what does that mean, Tristan? Because you might be thinking, Matt, that sounds super illegal, right?
Yeah.
Here's the weird reason why...
That sounds super illegal.
I think, okay, so I think you and I have had this discussion before, not on the podcast, but off the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if this is the same Chinese company that I'm thinking of here, yes, okay, yeah, so here's what happened, right? So I'm sorry, it wasn't a Chinese company. There's a Thai company that has been claimed for years, Chayo, has claimed for years that they originally spoke to the creator of Ultraman's son, so Eiji Tsubaraya's son. They claim that they spoke to his son and got a notarized stamp from the son, basically saying, you have the rights to use the first, I think it was the first 7 Ultraman series and characters in your productions.
Right.
So what ended up happening there is, that means that Chayo then said, oh, so we're allowed to do this in the US as well. Mm. And that means that, sadly, anytime you want to buy, I was just saying how cool Shout Factory was for what they've been doing with Super Sentai, but sadly when it comes to Ultraman, there is no proof at all that when Shout Factory released Ultraman, Ultra 7, it's funny, we talk about Ultra 7X with Go 90, but the actual Ultra 7 original, as well as the original Ultra Q. So Ultra Q actually came out before Ultraman. Ultra Q was a bit like, oh my goodness, we're on essentially a monster island. And then they see different monsters every week, and then they come to the mainland and stuff like that. So Ultra Q was in black and white, super interesting, super weird. I want to check it out through Shout Factory. But the problem is that if I do buy it, the royalties will probably, because there's no proof saying that the royalties will go to Tsubaraya, they're going to go to Chayo, because Chayo claims that they have the rights to release it in the U.S. and not in Japan, obviously, but in the U.S. and abroad. Right. So in Thailand and in China. Now, Tsubaraya says, and they say this in all legal terms, right? In legal terms, they say, fuck no. That's legal. That's legal speak. Right. I couldn't even recite that well. But from what we're looking at here, it basically means no. So they actually gone to courts about it, and the courts strangely have ruled in Chayo's favor. Even though it's like, the stamp, according to Tsubaraya, they're like, the stamp could be faked, and they're like, doesn't look like a fake to me, and it's like, okay. So there's been a huge rights dispute for years. I'm talking about years with this Thai company, right. Chayo. They've been known by other names as well. But there's been huge rights disputes with them and with Tsubaraya. There was actually plans for an Ultraman live-action movie. And it's funny because there was rumored that attached to the movie was Will Smith, because he's a huge Ultraman fan, allegedly. Right? But it never came to be because, of course, Chayo was the one pushing for it, not Tsubaraya. Or, if I'm wrong and it was the reverse, Tsubaraya was saying, we're going to make this movie, and Chayo was like, not in the U.S. And it was like, oh no, honey. Right. Honey, oh no, honey. But yeah, so there's a big issue with this because, again, now this is in China, right. This is being released, and the Chinese company is like, hey, we got the rights from Chayo. Right. And Tsubaraya is like, no, you did not. Right. And so it's really frustrating because, of course, Tsubaraya owns this property regardless. Now, I don't know if they have rights in China. I don't know how it works in China. But again, this company, I want to make sure I got their name right. This Chinese company, I want to see what their name is directly. Blue Arc, thank you, sorry. Because I see where they're based in. They're based in Guangzhou.
Their claims, the Chinese Supreme Court has deemed that the company's use of Ultraman as a character is legal too, so...
Yeah, it's super strange because, again, like, it shouldn't be. Like, I mean, look, I understand. Here's my thing too, right? I don't know what the terms of the agreement is. Right. If Tsubaraya is getting a small royalty, that's the thing. If they're getting a small royalty, it's frustrating. I doubt it too, because because the thing is, if we're talking about licensing and sub-licensing and stuff like that, when it comes to anime, now we're talking about the legal way, like when there aren't courts involved and stuff like that. When it comes to anime, Toei gets, residuals from everything that Funimation does with Dragon Ball Z and what Viz does with Sailor Moon. And obviously all these other properties that different companies have licensed from Toei, and of course many other companies as well. They get, whatever percentage is in the contract. When we look at Marvel, who, when they sold their movie rights for Spider-Man over to Sony and X-Men and Fantastic Four to Fox, despite all the legal hang-ups we've talked about over the years with it sucks that all Fox had to do was say, we're gonna make a Fantastic Four movie, don't take the rights away. Right. And then immediately they get the right, they get the ability to keep the movie rights. It doesn't mean that Marvel isn't seeing a lot of money if Fantastic Four and X-Men do well.
Right.
So Marvel, they're getting cuts from those movies. Don't think they're not, right? I want people to understand that. Marvel's getting cuts. It's just obviously they're not getting as much money as they would have if they never sold X-Men in the first place and made it part of the MCU, immediately, right? But of course they couldn't do that because if they didn't, as we all know, if they didn't sell these rights to Spider-Man, X-Men, Blade, Fantastic Four, they might not have been around because they could have, just completely went belly up. So, yeah, bad trade-offs, but I mean, what you gonna do, right? In this case, though, this is basically Chayo saying, no, it totally happened. And Tsubaraya saying, who are you again?
Right.
And the courts, both in China and I believe in the U.S. as well, recently there's been some controversy with it, though. We'll talk about that in a future episode. But as I last recalled, I think even in the U.S. as well, they're like, no, seems legit, bro. Right. Japanese companies are like, okay.
Right.
We have no problem upholding, laws and things, or these negotiations signed into place. But it's just super strange that one company could say, no, you signed it over to us forever.
Right.
And one company says, I really don't think
that's how that works.
We would sign this over forever.
Yeah.
You don't have, you rarely have companies overseas going, you have the rights to release this forever and, Tristan, and ever. It's like, that doesn't usually happen. Right. Usually, it's a 6-year contract, 5, 4, depending on if it's, manga, maybe 3 years. Streaming licenses can be 2 to 3 years. But it's never a infinity license. So, but I was going to try to say that if Tsubaraya is getting some residuals from the sales with Shout Factory and other, things as well for the first 7 Ultraman, I mean, it sucks, but at least they're getting residuals. If they don't know about it, though, in terms of with Blue Arc and this new movie in China, if Tsubaraya isn't getting a check in the mail to notify them, and they're being notified because it's being promoted in China...
Right.
Because I would imagine Tsubaraya didn't get a check in the mail going, well, we didn't expect this. I have a feeling they saw a billboard and they were like, we did not expect this.
Right. And I feel like it's kind of funny, like the ultimate slap in the face for this is that Ultraman is apparently the enemy that fights against a Chinese robot hero.
Yeah, I think that's also something that Tsubaraya is like, look, there's so many things wrong. Yeah. Tsubaraya is like, all right, out of everything you did, you couldn't have made him a great guy.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So that's super frustrating. Also because, again, it also just, and that's the thing, too. It's actually funny to think about it that way. It's terrible if you, rip off Superman from DC, just verbatim, right? Just not even, just literally, it's Superman. We call him Superman. He puts glasses on, he's Clark Kent. You do that one-to-one.
Man Super, and he's Kent Clark.
No. He is legit Superman, because he's the legit Ultraman. He's legit Superman. And what do you say to that? Oh, and he's the bad guy. Just excuse me? So what I'm trying to get at here, specifically, is, like I mentioned earlier, I mentioned that, because I want to quickly transition into this, I mentioned earlier where, we don't know if Tsubaraya is making money off of the Ultra 7, the Ultra Q, and I didn't even mention Ultraman, which was released by, I think it was a company called Mill Creek. If you're watching this below, please comment below. I forgot, BIC at one point licensed it, or was the company. And what I'm getting at here is that basically they licensed it. They were on record saying, hey, we got this from a company, I think it was something Gold, and it wasn't Harmony Gold, the anime company, it was something Gold, right? And apparently Gold was a sub-license, or a subdivision of Chio. So it was like a U.S. division. So it made people think like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't through Chio, but it was.
Right.
So I don't know. So you go, and by the way, I'm not saying don't buy these sets if you're a U.S. fan and wants to buy them. I would just suggest buying them second hand. Like I've never bought them directly from the companies because I love Shout Factory and I want to support them. But if Tsubaraya is not getting the money, I don't know, right? But thankfully, it's only the first 7 Ultraman shows and 7 Ultraman characters. So when we talk about Go 90 having Ultraman Neos and Ultra 7, Ultra 7X, that's the one, Ultra 7X, and when we talk about Crunchyroll having Ultraman Greed, Ultraman Orb, I think they also have Ultraman 80s, Ultraman Ace, Ultraman Max, I think, as well, and they also have I can't remember, so many Ultraman series they have, right? Thankfully, Tsubaraya was they were licensed through Tsubaraya. Tsubaraya is getting the money from all that. They did not go through Chio for those. So that's good to think about, right? So if you want to support Ultraman legally and you don't know how to, you can go on Crunchyroll. You can go on Go 90's, Verizon's Go 90 service, and you can watch Ultraman stuff there for free with ads, and bam, you're supporting Ultraman. By the way, Ultraman Tiga, which sadly is out of print, but it was released by Funimation, that also was licensed through Tsubaraya.
Right.
Not through, technically 4Kids licensed it through Tsubaraya, but still. So that's good to hear as well, right? So, this is a very strange case. I hope it gets overruled in some way, because again, I'm going to imagine that Tsubaraya didn't get any money through this. So it's super frustrating that a court is just able to tell a company that owns the license, yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
This company owns it forever. Like, it's just such a strange case. And I'm not even, even if I have to believe Chio, let's say I believe Chio and everything they've said is true, how do you, are you really going to just say, yeah, the son of the man who ran the company was like, you should own this forever.
Right.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem believable.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give, unless there's royalties involved, which again, doesn't seem like there are.
Yeah.
I can't imagine just saying, pay me one lump sum and you own this forever.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, I don't care who it is. I don't care if Disney came up to us and was like, here's a lot of money. Now we own your YouTube channel. I'd be like, not forever though, right?
No, it's forever.
You know what I'm saying? All right, well, how much money you giving me here? Because even then, no, because the thing is, I don't imagine that Tsubaraya, if this is, again, let's pretend it's all true, right? I don't imagine the company in Tsubaraya, the company got $1 billion.
Right.
Right? I don't think, I'm pretty sure it was here's some cash and a handshake agreement, according to a handshake agreement, cash, and then here's your stamp. And I was see? The Tsubaraya, they're letting us do it. And I'm like,
right.
It doesn't check out. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating that, according to laws in these other countries, they're it makes sense. Why wouldn't it make sense? Why wouldn't you just give someone the rights to this forever? It's it doesn't make business sense. And I know, right, we've had companies like the BBC, right, screw up royally with Doctor Who in terms of burning the original, well, not burning, but getting rid of the original tape that, the episode the serials were on, right? So we've had fuck-ups before like that, yes. But it would be like if the BBC was we don't really see much of a future with Doctor Who. Now Fox owns it forever.
Right, yeah.